Okay. Okay, so let's just try just a bit of exercise sitting. So just the heart qigong. So just bringing it in, and then up and out. So what we want to feel and become awake to are the two centers in the heart. So the lower heart, which I call eros, for want of a better word, and the upper heart, which I call thymus. So the lower heart is like the feminine heart, you know, the sort of the loving mother that takes the child in to her heart. The upper heart is the aggressive masculine heart that wants to fight. Yeah. So this exercise, we reach out and it's as though we bring the world into the lower heart, into the deep feminine heart. And then here we just, by straightening the back, by tensing those back muscles, I thrust the energy up into the thymus and let that fountain upwards and out. And then it just cascades all around me. And that's the exercise. So just reaching out, bringing the world in to the heart. And you want to feel the lower heart and the dantian almost being the same thing. It's like they sort of suck towards each other as you come into the heart. And then here up into the upper heart, and then that just fountains out. So the thymus is connected to the head, and eros, the lower heart, is connected to the belly. So reaching out into the deep heart, reaching down into the dantian, and then the upper heart reaching up into the head and exploding outwards and just sinking down. So again, out. Good. And so when I bring it into the heart, I suck the belly in, but I also sort of try and suck the heart in. And then here it's as though my upper sternum, the sort of bit that's proudly juts out, pushes out even more. Yeah, so there's the two extremes of the heart. We're just feeling and exercising. So this goes really deep. And then this comes right to the surface and bursts out. And one more. So out, in, and this time we just keep the hands out. So let it burst out. And then here, just keep the hands out. So you can turn one hand down, one hand up. So there's a little bit of a difference between the two sides. And now, as though it's the stick behind the neck. So we're just twisting. Again, just start off gentle and just let it build up if it wants to. So the more gently you work, the more you can sort of inspect it and look at it. So the more mindful it becomes. And just let the eyes sort of hood. So the eyes sort of blur. So you want to be aware of, as though the room is moving around you and you're actually still. You want to be so still inside that it's as though the room is revolving around you. So as you turn to the right, it's as though the room is really turning to the left. So that you're always passing by. The world is passing you by. You're not getting carried along or carried away. Yeah, so you have to keep your intending mind directing down the arms, otherwise they'll get tired and want to droop. And then just open the hands and have them both facing down. And then just pull the shoulder blades together and then push them apart. So so this chest really rears up and out. And then here, it's as though the chest collapses. So we're just trying to move the shoulder blades towards each other and then away from each other. So the hands are moving because the shoulder blades are moving. And then just bringing the hands round to the front. And then just let them fold into prayer posture. And now just a little bit of rowing. So just really reaching forwards and letting the back bow as much as it can. And then just drawing the elbows back, twisting the forearms as though you're trying to pinch the shoulder blades together, the elbows together behind your back. So the chest is really thrusting out and then reaching forwards again. So you're going from one extreme to the other. So we're trying to keep the mind quiet and still inside the moving body. And then the movement has a very different quality. It feels really sort of serious and meaningful, somber, like somber and serious and difficult. Yeah, so when the mind is quiet, everything that you do is real. It's got a weight, a gravitas. Okay, and now let's just bring the hands onto the belly, so the Dan Qian, and now just letting the head sway. Yeah, so your hands are sort of feeling the stability in your lower back, and your head is feeling the sway in the upper back and the head. Again, just be careful. Really feel one side of the spine stretching and the other side contracting in order to create this bend. And you can sort of turn the head to look up as you tip over. Just makes it a little bit more intense, a little bit more meaningful. Again, just keep the eyes hooded so that your vision is blurred. And you're just aware of the world moving as you move. So you don't want to focus on anything. You just want to become aware of the movement. You want the movement to be as total as possible. And now let's just bring the hands into prayer posture again. And now just reaching out again. And this time just turning the head. So just start modest and let it build up until you're really twisting the neck as far as it will go, and trying to look behind yourself, trying to look at the spot on the wall directly behind your head. And just feel how the hands sort of change as you turn the head, as the energy moves. So it tends to move towards the hand you're turning towards. So the energy is passing from hand to hand as your head turns. Okay. So now let's stand up now. Okay, so just pacing. So we want the feeling that the leg is gripping the ground and pulling me into it. Exactly the same as the hands would be if you were sort of clambering along a rope. So I'm pulling myself down. So just feel the dantian very much in the center, the dantian in the sacrum, the center of the body. Okay, and now just coming into riding horse. So remember, the important thing in riding horse is the horse, so the space between the legs. You want your 2 feet to be pointing slightly in, so that my third toe, my middle toe, is directly pointing forwards. The knees are trying to go out, the toes are trying to come in, so there's torque in the lower leg, which is putting the sacrum and the sacroiliacs under just a little bit of strain. I want the sense that my sacrum is heavy and it's pulling down like this. It's pulling down, and because of its convex curve, it's cutting under like this. So apparently they think the reason the sacrum is called the sacrum, because sacrum os, it means sacred bone. So they think the reason it was considered sacred is because it's like the biggest, the heaviest and densest, thickest bone in the body. And so it's the last one to decompose. And so they assume that that was the bone from which you were rebuilt when you get reborn at the end of, the end of when all the good people come back. And so it's heavy and it's just pulling down, hanging down. So gravity is pulling that more than anything because it's the heaviest part of you being pulled down to the ground. Yeah, so in our eagerness to stand up and come forwards into the world, the sacrum will usually angle back, giving you a feeling that your belly is falling forwards over the top of your belt. So we want the opposite of that. So the sacrum is just pulling down and cutting under. And that's causing my back to recede. So my back feels very much that it's behind my legs, the same as if you were sitting in a chair. Your legs are obviously in front of your body. Then that's the same feeling here. That's the sense in which we sit down into our posture in Tai Chi. My legs are in front. And so my arms have to reach forwards just to balance me, to stop me falling backwards. Feel the heels. Yeah. So the sacrum is cutting down through the heels. It splits down the legs and cuts through the heel and under the foot. So we want to feel the double aspect of the ground. So everything has a double aspect in Taoism. So the obvious quality of the ground is that it's hard and it's still and it's stable, so it supports us. So the ground beneath me supports my body. My body can rear up from it and then project itself outwards. Now in Tai Chi, we're always trying to find the bit that we tend to forget and ignore. So the opposite of that. So the ground as a sink, the ground as something which I sink into and which drains me away. So it's pulling me down. It's not just pulling me down onto it, it's pulling me down into it, as though when you tip water onto soil, it just soaks in. So the same feeling with your own body. It's soaking into the ground. So that's the sinking of Tai Chi, which is, it all starts there really. So from the sinking, everything else in Tai Chi springs. Yeah, so this real sense that your sacrum is being pulled down, which is tending to make you fall backwards. So I have to bring my head forwards a little bit and my arms just to balance that. And then we just come onto the front of the foot and lift the heels. So what's difficult here is that it tends to do this, yeah? And so we have to really concentrate on the sacrum being heavy to give me some balance, some stability in this basically unstable posture. So here, I'm much more focusing on the ground as a support. My body is so trembly and unstable, I'm really relying on the still stability of the ground beneath my feet. I have to sink in order to stay connected because it's wanting to spring up all the time, but I'm just feeling the ground in its supporting aspect. And then I just rock back onto the heels, but one at a time. So it's like my heel reaches back and then cuts underneath the foot. And then this one. And again, that pulls the sacrum, pulls the lower back long and straight and allows my sacrum and my tailbone to cut underneath my 2 feet. Okay, now let's come on to the toes again. So we want to feel the support of the ground, but also how it's as though the ground is investing me with this tremble, this tingly, fizzy, spirited energy, which would normally get drained away through the heels in our sinking, but because the heels are off the ground, it's just building up in the body. So the posture sort of intensifies. I can sink even more with my body to make it even more intense. So there's a sense in which it's building up and building up. So there's a point where it feels like it's going to burst. And then that's the point where you put the heels down one at a time and just scooping under the ground and coming back into riding horse. So remember, the important thing here is just the heavy sacrum that's pulling down and cutting under. You don't have to worry about the cutting under if it's pulling, because it will do that because of its shape, because it has this beautiful convex shape, like a cup. It could hold water if you held it like this. I mean, not a lot, but yeah, so we want to feel the front of the leg and the back of the leg. Yeah. So the front of the leg is obviously working. That, when I say to people, feel the energy in the legs, what they feel is the strain in their thighs. Yeah. And that's not the energy. That's just you holding yourself up. What you want to feel is the flow down the back of the legs. So just feel the contrast between the front of the leg, which is supporting you and holding you up, and the back of the legs through which the sinking energy is flowing. So your legs just need to be strong enough so that you can ignore the pain, yeah, and just focus on the feeling in the back of the legs. Focus on the energy that's sinking. And then just one more coming forwards. And now it just becomes fizzy and wee, like sort of excitable, spirited. Maybe your breathing gets a little bit faster. The heartbeat will get a little bit faster. Keeping the belly contracted so that your bum doesn't stick out. Really relaxing all around the sacrum so that the sacrum can pull down to the ground. and just a real sense of this rising energy that's infusing your whole body from the ground. And you just stay here until you felt your whole body become filled all the way to the top of the heads and the tips of the fingers. And then we'd just sink back. So again, one heel, ooh, and then the other. So the heels are like hooks that reach back and hook underneath the foot. And then again, just the heavy sacrum. It's always something you have to tell yourself, because the bum always tends to stick back, because it doesn't matter how strong your legs are. It's never quite enough. Okay, and now let's just breathe. Yeah. So again, so here, as I breathe the spine forwards, this is like the heels. This is like me going back into the heels. And this is like coming onto the front of the foot. So this is rearing up from the ground and the thymus becoming dominant. And then this is sinking down into the ground and my deep heart sucking the world in. This is me coming out of my thymus. And this is me coming into the lower heart, into Eros. Yeah, so here, just really feel the heart, the lower heart, Eros, and the belly sort of trying to really touch. And then here, it's as though thymos is trying to reach up into the middle of the brain. Yeah, so as you come into the deep heart, it's as though you're sort of reaching back into the past, the ancestral past, and the evolution past. And then here you're sort of reaching into the future. Yeah. So just sinking into the past and reaching into the future. So there's a lovely phrase that I came across from Heidegger. He said, destiny is the reverberation or the reverberating between provenance and destination. Yeah. So where you're coming from, where you're going. So those two are always trembling, vibrating together, and that is destiny. Yeah? And so here we feel that every time we breathe, every time we take in a breath and then let the breath out. So the bit we tend to ignore, the sinking, bringing in, lower feminine heart bit. That's the bit we need to concentrate on. So it's like the mother opening her arms and taking the child in to her heart and just providing comfort and love. And this is like the warrior coming out in order to fight. Yeah. Okay, so now let's just bring it back to riding horse. And now let's just yielding. So basically I'm doing this, but just with one side of my body, and the other side of my body sort of reaches out. And then, so concentrate on the yielding bit and don't worry too much about the other side because that will sort of take care of itself. And it turns. When you yield, if you just yield one side, it will produce a turn because it's naturally pulling back in order to make space for the other that you're containing within yourself. So I turn. And just try and feel this point in the fold of the leg. Apparently there's 3 acupuncture meridians that cross here. And so when I draw in like this, I want the feeling that something is going into this point, and then it will just wrap around the bone here, the hip. Yeah. So it comes into my inguinal fold, which keeps it open. So again, it's really just the figure of 8 in the hips or the feet, but really feeling the point of entry and feeling it as these points rather than it just coming into the dantian and looping around. Just want to feel it somehow opening this space here so that my 2 legs can really separate from each other. And now let's just try just the one hand, but really opening here as though I'm sort of inscribing a circle around the upper thigh or the hip joint so that the leg almost can separate from the hip or feels that it can. So I'm really loosening this joint. And then the other side. So just really feel the width of the sacrum with your two hip bones attached like wings either side of the sacrum, and a real sense of space here. So real space between the points where the legs insert into the hips, so that you can remain on your outside edges all the time. And then just the same thing, but now just a continuous figure of 8. And just feel the two hands. It's my left hand that goes around this hip here, and my right hand just goes out and comes back in. So the right hand, the same hand is on top of the ball, and the opposite hand reaches down around the hip and underneath the ball. So we're just holding the ball. Yeah, so the top hand goes out and then swings in, and the bottom hand just really goes into this point to separate the leg from the whole body. So it's a bit like waving hands in the clouds. Yeah, so all the time, just trying to keep that space here. So the two legs really feel like they're a long way from each other in the hips, not just in the feet. So we're just imagining that the hips are a lot wider than they really are. Okay, now let's just bring it back to riding horse, and then we'll just do a little bit of the same thing, but with the walking the circle. So again, just width between the feet. So this should be quite easy now, because it feels like these two legs are out here somewhere, yeah? But again, just keeping the sacrum, relaxing down and undermining the space in front of you. Yeah, so the sinking of the sacrum should always make you sort of do this, sort of lean backwards, yeah? If you find yourself looking down too much or feeling that you're toppling forwards, then you just don't have the sinking sacrum right. Okay, now let's try some of this, just walking the circle. So first of all, let's just remind ourselves. So the left foot just points straight towards a wall, so to one of the 4 walls, and then the other foot just turns and faces the corner. And then that's it. Then you just repeat that until you've gone all the way around to this wall. and now to this corner, and now to my back wall, and then to my southeast corner, and then to the east wall, and then with the right foot round to the northeast corner. Yeah. So just feeling, as you put the feet down, just feel what it does in the sacrum region. Yeah, so as you swing the foot round that goes to the corner, it sort of pulls the sacrum open. And then as you bring the other foot round to face the wall, this tightens up slightly. So again, it's like the sacrum is breathing. Yeah, so what we want to concentrate on is just the quality of the foot going on the ground. Yeah, so it's very simple. Once you've sorted it out, it's actually really simple. So it's easy to just concentrate on something quite specific. So what I want to do is put the foot down, put the heel down first, but so gently that as soon as my heel hits the ground, my sacrum and my tailbone get sucked down the back of the leg and into it and into the ground. So if I bang the ground with my heel, it will do the opposite. It will just crunch up the whole sacral area. So here I put the heel down and it's as though it just opens up the draining quality of the ground and it just sucks my spine down the back of my leg. This is the difficult one, the one that is pointing to the corner. But again, I want to feel that just reaching down. And it's all in just the gentleness with which you can place the heel. So you really have to hold the body back so that the heel can just kiss the ground, and then you just sink down into it. So, ooh. So we just want to feel the little bit of ground beneath the heel, sucking my tailbone down into it. Just the natural draining quality of the ground. And it's not just gravity. It's like something is sucking you. Yeah, so what the heel has to do is, if it hits the ground and sort of does this, then that's the opposite of what we want. So what it has to do is go down really gently and actually pull at the ground. Yeah, so I need to turn. I need to have this yielding quality as the foot goes down. So I put the heel down and I yield. I melt. Yeah, soft like ice about to melt. And it's basically then just what we've just been practicing. It's just going, looping around the hip. So the hand that was looping over the top of the ball. Ooh. So it just becomes the figure of 8 exercise, but on the walk. So, ooh. And you just want to just really feel it. It should make you feel almost tearfully tender. And then just feel that as you place the heel, if you place the heel really, really gently with a slight pull to it, then what it will do is actually turn you the other way, because it will pull the hip towards it. Yeah. And so as I pull the ground, this hip is pulled towards it, and then I can then turn to draw myself into the foot. So placing the heel pulls me around this way, and then my turn draws me into that foot. So it's a little bit more subtle than it looks. And then it simply becomes the figure of 8 in the foot, yeah? So it's effectively putting the toes down first. So here and then I'm going around doing that figure of 8 inside the foot. Yeah, so there's like a resonance between my heel going down first and my toes actually going down first. So we want it to sort of just become a little bit sort of hazy. So I'm not sure whether it's my toes going down first and I'm just doing this complete figure of 8 through in the foot, or whether it's the heel going down first and I'm just yielding simply. Yeah. So it's slipping in and out all the time. So nothing's sure, nothing's certain. So the only constant really in energy is movement. And paradoxically, that awareness only comes about when we become still with the mind, when the mind becomes still and silent in the center of it. Because then that becomes like the support, the anchor, the stability at the center, which then enables everything else to really boil and froth. Okay, so let's just bring it back. I just need to finish because we pick up my daughter. So the top of the sacrum where it joins the spine is the vertical part. And then the bottom of the sacrum will curve under slightly because of its shape. Okay, now let's just bring it up. Again, just slight tightness here. And again, just trying to get that region where the sacrum joins the lower back. So basically from the min meng down, try and get that vertical. It normally angles back. And so there has to be a sense that something behind me is dropping down. And it will always tend to make you feel like you're going to fall backwards. Just feel the deep heart just drawing all the time. The same as the belly does, but this is actually drawing the world. It's not just drawing you. So the belly is like your anchor, your center, whereas this is always relational. It's always pulling things in. Okay, great. So let's finish.